Hey, welcome everyone to today's presentation on regulation strategies for children. So glad y'all could join us today. My name is Joel and I'm your presenter. I have a background in being a psychologist, working at schools, also as a teacher and as a parent. My wife and I are both psychologists. We run a practice called Family Life Together and absolutely love what we do and have the privilege of supporting many families and our team in supporting others in emotional regulation, not just for children, but for teenagers, adults as well. Today's presentation is focused on emotional regulation for children. My wife and I not only have that experience professionally, but also personally, as we have three young children of our own who are 3, 5, and 6 years old. Our children are a lot of fun, our pride and joy, but as any parent knows, there is moments of dysregulation. So one of the most important things that we've learned, not only in our professional practice, but our personal journey as parents, is ensuring that we are equipping our children with the tools and strategies to manage their emotions. Now, I have a question for all of you today. I really enjoy collaboration, back and forth discussions. What do you think is the core challenge or difficulty with emotional regulation? Some might say kids managing their emotions, dealing with the surprises, or navigating the challenges of life or school or different things. I truly believe the core key foundational principle around emotional regulation is being able to understand your emotions. That is emotional literacy, not only for children, but for teenagers and adults too. So, a key thing we're going to explore today is understanding our emotional pathways. First, we want to understand these as parents, and only then can we understand them for our children too. Now, let me ask you, let's put this into context today. Think about a time where you've been in each of these three zones or pathways. We can see the blue pathway is shutting down, isolating, tuning out. See, we can either get sad or mad when something challenging is happening. I understand perhaps that's oversimplifying our emotions, but for young children, we like to focus on these three colors: blue, green, and red. So we've talked about the blue pathway being sad. We're going to explore that in a bit more detail in a moment. The next one is mad. We can get into fight, flight, blow up, run away, get frustrated when things are challenging. The third pathway is the green pathway, which is feeling safe, engaged in learning mode. So being able to effectively regulate our emotions and understand them. Before we talk specifically about examples, let's recognize and name our autonomic states. So as we've mentioned, in the green zone, we're feeling calm, we're feeling cozy, we're feeling safe. Close your eyes for a minute and picture your happy place. For some of you, it might be on a beach somewhere, perhaps with some type of beverage. For others, it might be, next to the fireplace, just feeling wrapped up in a blanket. For other people, maybe it's walking outside in nature, at your farm, wherever it might be. That is your happy place with your favorite pet, with your favorite people. That's when we're feeling calm, cozy, and safe. Okay, so you've got that picture in your mind and you're just imagining that relaxed place. You got it? Okay, I've got mine too. Now the key is life is full of chaos. You can't always be in that happy place, in that dream zone place. So how do we take that into everyday life, especially for our toddlers and younger kids? It's a challenging concept. But if we can understand as parents, that is the beginning to apply it for our children too. So that's step one, being able to recognize what that green zone feels like and making it practical for our kids, right? So what brings them calm, safety, towards that regulation state. A few thoughts there. You might think hugs. For many children, they really appreciate being close and feeling cared for and supported by their parents, caregivers, or others. Now, of course, there's some children with autism spectrum disorder or other complex or neurodiverse learning challenges that they might be more on the sensory side of things and they might not prefer hugs or different things like that. But generally, for many children, we'll talk about it later in this presentation. A key part of emotional regulation is often related to physical touch. And as parents, we are the thermostat. We set the regulation state for our children. I just came home from a little trip I was on with my family, and it was cold in the house. I turned down the heat a little bit because I thought we're not going to be home, so it can be a little cooler. And turns out, I don't know what happened, but it's very cold. So I set that state in the thermometer of exactly the temperature of our home. And now I'm cold. So what do I got to do? I got to turn up the thermometer. And the power over the entire home, the temperature in the top to the bottom floor of our house is controlled by the thermostat. In the same way, we can proactively support emotional regulation in our children by being that thermostat as parents. If we can find ways to understand our green zone, regulate and calm ourselves, whether it be for mindfulness, meditation, music, whatever calming strategies we can use in those moments of stress or challenge at home can keep us regulated, and that's going to empower our children to set the regulation state for them to be regulated too. So understanding our green zone and really unpacking that for ourselves is important. Next, we can see the autonomic state of the blue zone, be sad, lonely, or tired. And in the red zone, we see having big feelings and needing to move. So let's unpack that a little bit. Where is that located in the perspective of neuroscience? From neuroscience, we can see the ventral vagal system is activated when we are in the green zone. We're feeling safe. We can be engaged. We can be learning our brains online. We're logical. We're reasonable. Those are all the aspects that are key to learning and creating safety, not only for connection, but also for growth. On the blue side of things, we see the dorsal vagal area. As you can see from my source, this is information from Beyond Behaviors from the work of Dr. Mona here. So just to note that as well. In the blue zone, we can see shutting down, isolating, tuning out. Our brain is offline. It's hard to connect. And if any of you have taken the circle security training, you'll know that our job is to be that caring, supportive environment, being bigger, stronger, and more supportive than our kiddos and creating that regulation space. So that's the power of helping with our children, especially from a neuroscience perspective, manage their emotions. We can see when children get in the red zone, their sympathetic nervous system gets activated. As we know, our sympathetic nervous system responds with sympathy to challenges in our life. It's kind of like the emergency system. The sirens are blinking. Okay, let's do something. We could be in fight or flight, striking out, running. We're worked up. We're stressed out. As parents, we can all relate to that in our lives at times. So number one is understanding and being able to really know and steward that green zone, and then having strategies when we're both in the blue and red zone as well. We'll be talking about that throughout the presentation. Just wanted to give you some of the neuroscience and just fundamental understanding, theoretical thoughts behind what we're talking about today. I'm going to zoom into something else here. We're going to zoom right along, and we're going to look at this iceberg effect. Now we know behavior is communication for young children. On the surface, they might have aggressive behaviors. Maybe they feel triggered. Maybe they're getting upset, being defiant, maybe testing limits, having a temper, avoiding tasks, whatever it might be. There's all kinds of things that we see on the surface called behavior, what's observable, what we can see for children. But below the surface, this is very important, is maybe things they're not able to communicate. Now, please note on this slide, this is a very severe or significant things. I would not assume your child or your family is probably dealing with these areas, but it does just highlight the complexities of what is going below the surface for anyone. For some individuals, they might have attachment trauma or challenges, toxic stress, maybe neglect, trauma, all those more complex things. For your typical child, probably of those with us today and watching from home, it's going to be small things like maybe if you're out and about and your children might go to preschool or grade school if you have older children in different places. Just that idea of feeling overwhelmed in a space. For some children who are more sensitive, they can pick up on those environments and get more easily exhausted too. So the whole area too of halt, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That HALT acronym can highlight some very common core things for all of us that are likely going on below the surface when our behavior starts getting a little unique, a little different, a little funky, right? So all of us get hungry sometimes, and you probably had this too. You get hangry, you get upset. There's things that trigger us. Those are some things that go on below the surface. Sometimes we might feel lonely, whether a parent's busy, a friend's busy, whatever's going on. There's things that are impacting our attachments and connections. Not likely to the severe degree that this chart or visual displays, but small things every day, Just the other day, my daughter was saying, "Oh, do you have to do this today? I want to spend some time together." And I just had to work for a little bit, and then I was able to come back to what we were doing together. So that's just one example of what that would look like in terms of children going through different emotions, feeling lonely, angry, of course, hungry is obvious, and tired. If any of you know well, if you've been parenting for any amount of time, kids get tired, and so do adults, and we're not at our best when we're tired. So we can see that being tired is one thing that can contribute to emotional regulation difficulties as well. A key thing to think about as we talk about these different areas is just knowing that behavior is communication. For older individuals, hopefully we've developed communication strategies. So instead of slamming a door, we can say, "Hey, please, I need some space." Instead of yelling in someone's face, we can say, "I feel frustrated right now." Instead of taking a toy, we can say, "Could you please share?" Hopefully, as adults, we're learning communication skills so we don't have to communicate with our behavior. But if you have a toddler, someone who has delayed language skills, even at an older age, we recognize that their ability to communicate is limited. So that's why we often see behaviors, because their behavior is communicating to siblings, to parents, to others. This is my need. And being able to provide children with an opportunity to understand their pathway and really have a clear sense of that is really important. And we can see there's a gap here between the blue and red pathways. Often, sometimes we can expect too much from our children, or they're pushed beyond their limits. And they respond in the red pathway. They're communicating, "This is too much." Ah, too much is expected of me even after they're having a hard time to self regulate again. Sometimes our blue pathway, or when we get into that blue pathway, is a stress response. And it's a sign that they're requiring co regulation or the thermostat of an adult to help and support the child with their regulation challenges. So being trauma informed is really key in asking yourself these questions. And trust me, these are super obvious to all of us. But in those moments as parents, sometimes it's hard to think about and recognize these things when we're in a challenging moment. Your child's melting down at the grocery store because they want to get chocolate. Has that ever happened to you before? Or maybe they're trying to share a toy and things are difficult, or it's bedtime and your child really doesn't want to put their pajamas on or brush their teeth or get ready for bed. Sometimes as a parent, we want to step in and solve the problem. Trust me, I do. I'm a problem solver to the core. But the challenge is sometimes my interventions might not actually increase the perceived level of safety or let's say green pathway for my child. I want to help them out and move them along. I want to make sure they're listening. I want to make sure they're getting done what they need to get done. And that's why as parents, we intervene, we have consequences, we have rules, we have discipline because we want our children to learn. Those things are all very important. And as you intervene, you've got to ask yourself, does my intervention, is what I'm doing, is the action I'm taking increasing the perceived level of safety? Is it leading a child into the green zone or perhaps away from it? A common example is my oldest daughter. She can get really stuck on things. And she has a mindset of what clothes she wants to wear that day or exactly how her hair needs to get done. And if I want her to be more flexible and intervene, when I'm seeing she's struggling and in the red zone, sorry, getting into a little bit of the red zone or maybe a little bit of the blue zone, I want to reach out and help. But sometimes I'm not actually helping. My help is hindering and getting her more stuck and more frustrated. So we've got three kids, as I shared, but the youngest and the oldest. The middle child's quite flexible and does pretty well that way. But the youngest and oldest, if I just want to step in and solve a problem, I'm actually going to decrease their sense of safety, decrease their sense of autonomy, and probably put them into more of the red zone. So I want to make sure I'm encouraging consistent messages of safety through my interactions by asking my daughter, okay, you really want to wear that shirt today? Well, I think it's kind of cold outside. Can we find some longer pants? Asking powerful questions is a really good way to help kids be flexible. How can I help you with that? Okay, you really want to wear your Paw Patrol PJs. If anyone knows about Paw Patrol, you got young kids, you know all about Paw Patrol. Okay, those are in the wash. So instead of just saying, no, you can't wear them, giving the child a reason, connecting with logic, and trying to work through that problem together can be key. So, as you do that, ask yourself, am I inadvertently sending messages that something is inherently wrong with them? Oh, stop just being that way. Can't you just be flexible? Why do you get so stuck on this shirt? What's wrong with you? Fill in the blank of what you tell your child. We all do it as parents sometimes, but it's so important to be aware and recognize our inadvertent messaging that we're telling our children about what could be wrong about them. Asking yourself, how is the child's behavior an adaptation or survival strategy that might have initiated or emerged to protect them from the threat of neuroception or just not being able to be connected? So perhaps their shirt gives them comfort. They like to do things a certain way, or their pajamas. Maybe they feel that going to bed right now and the state they're in is more of that blue state, and they need co-regulation from their parents. And this is a real tricky one because sometimes as parents, you're kind of at your wits' end as well. And you're just like, okay, you just need to go to bed. I just need a break, right? I just need this day to end. I just need a reset. And the child might be like, no, I'm not ready to go to bed. I'm too sad, or I'm having too hard of a time. So they're seeking that blue zone co-regulation. And you might, as a parent, not be in the place to give it at that time too. And that's a real thing. But a thing to highlight here is when we react to problematic behaviors outside of assessing the child's relational security, we are missing, everyone say missing, the mark. Co-regulation leads to self-regulation of emotion and behaviors. So we really got to do the opposite. Let's not react to the behavior, but instead assess the child's relational security. Do they feel safe, cared for? Are they supported? What interventions, what can I do to increase that level of security? And of course, we have to have rules, we have to have consequences, we have to have discipline. Your child needs to go to bed on time. It's time for bed. I can give you one last hug. I can put some, maybe songs on in your room or a sleep story or 5 hugs or whatever that routine or ritual could be to help them. But at the same time, you're still going to bed. And I always tell parents the 3 F's of parenting. There's a lot of F's you could probably think about. But these F's I'm thinking about are firm, fair, and flexible. So first, we have to be flexible. That we want to be able to accommodate and assess the child's relational security. Sometimes I get a real fixed mindset and think, nope, my child has to listen. They have to wear this shirt. They have to go to bed at this time. Thank goodness for my wife. She's more flexible than I am, so she helps me with that, and I can work through that with her, you know? So flexibility is important. And at the same time, being firm and fair is also important. And another word for that could be consistency. I like to be consistent. I like to be on time, show up a few minutes before, have the same routine, have the same schedule throughout the day. It's probably why I like teaching. You know, joke about teachers is we kind of sometimes can be control freaks. So I'll just say that about myself. And it's nice to be able to have good control and organizations and systems and structures. So we need to be able to have those systems and structures and organization. That's the firm and fair while being flexible, provide the child with relational security within the framework of that consistency. And that's what we're going to look at next. We're going to look at the framework of a house. What developmental processes is the child working on? So we're going to talk about the 6 C's. How can we, in our parenting, use the 3 F's and the 6 C's to really support our child? Step 1, calmness. How can I, as a parent, model and create that environment, set the tone, set the thermostat of calmness for my kids? The next one's connection and relatedness. So we can't connect unless we're calm. We can't connect unless we're in the green zone. So being able to self-regulate, regulate ourselves, do what we need to do to be calm, and then we can communicate. We can relate and go back and forth with our kids. And that's what communicating is all about, the back and forth rhythms, knowing that you're safe, I'm safe, we can have a conversation, we can feel comfortable and supported. There's also communicating through gestures, whether it be hugs, nonverbal gestures, etc. The way your eye contact, your hands, all that stuff integrates. That's connection. And connecting words and symbols through thoughts and ideas. So being able to actually communicate and have those conversations and crossing ideas and thoughts with each other. So it's a deeper level of communication. So we want to be able to provide that for our children. So here's a thought for you. Just take a minute and just kind of reflect on this too. A child seems to be misbehaving, is in the process of adapting and surviving. So when you see that misbehavior, ask yourself, how is my child trying to adapt? How are they trying to survive? So instead of seeing behavior as problematic, we need to see the pages. We need to see them as pages of an instruction manual on how we can support their nervous system. So first, ask yourself, what pathway is the child in? Recognizing if they're in the blue or red pathway, there's something about their behavior that's trying to become an adaptation to that. Second is, what pathway is the adult in? If I'm in the blue zone, who do I need to talk to, or how can I work through that to connect? And the blue zone is so powerful. I live near the city of Edmonton, as probably many of you do, and hopefully you all are Edmonton Oilers fans. The playoffs are coming up. Edmonton Oilers for the Cup this year. Oh, last year was such a heartbreak, so hoping for that. But I always talk about playing for the Oilers or the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames, of course, are red. And that's about getting into the red zone. You don't want to be in the red zone. That's more mad. When we're in the red zone, we actually push people away and they can't be connected to us. So that's what we don't want to do going into the red zone. On the flip side, there is the blue zone. And that is when you can actually pull people close. The blue emotions, feeling sad, communicating that, is actually pulling your child or others in your life close to you by communicating in the blue zone. So I always say, you got to be on the Oilers, not the Flames. And if you're playing for the Oilers, you talk about your blue feelings and you're on the same team. As I tell my child, hey, I kind of felt sad when you were yelling at your brother. That hurt my heart. Or when I asked you to go to bed and you weren't listening. That was sad. And of course, you have to be developmentally appropriate. You never want to be guilt tripping kids and all of that over the top. But there is very developmentally appropriate times to communicate your feelings, especially of sadness, to your child. Madness, you've got to really be mindful of other emotions because you don't want to guilt trip them and make them feel bad. But sadness often is the invitation to learn, grow, and change. It captures our attention like nothing else. So when you talk about feeling sad, you can recognize the other people in the room were wired for empathy, we're wired to care, especially when someone's feeling sad. So if you can tune into that, that can be really helpful. And that is the connection with the frame. If you can get yourself to the green zone or the blue zone, like I said, in a calm, regulated way, you can engage warmly with the child or connect, and then also be able to communicate back and forth. And that sadness piece is so key. I want to teach a whole course on this one day, the power of sadness. We do not, as people, understand the power of sadness. There's no greater game changer, motivator, catalyst than talking about sadness. So the more we can do that, the more people are going to hear, connect, and even change or modify their behavior. So I always say sadness is the superpower. That's for sure. Okay, moving right along here. Strategies for supporting problematic behavior. Number one, using respectful and empathetic language, very obvious. Those cues of safety, staying regulated ourselves is so important. Talking less. Less is more. Remember to limit what you say. Short, sweet, loving, to the point. Your child, based on their age, can only really hear the first sentence or two of what you're saying for those who are younger. So limit what you say and really try to hear from them as well. Respect the child's communication. If they're pushing away, give them that space. And if they want the emotional presence and comfort, support them that way too. Really being thoughtful of what the child's needing, particularly this is especially if they're in the red zone. So especially if things are quite tricky, it's like a hard time, that's where you really want to give kids the space. And of course, you have to intervene for safety. So if they're hurting themselves or someone else, you have to intervene. And remember your superpowers. The most important tool in our toolbox is human connection. And the toolbox itself is human connection. So just recognizing that. I'll talk about a really key concept that relates to emotional regulation, and that's called attunement. So attunement is a way to tailor interactions to meet each child's physical and emotional needs. The more in tune we are with our child, the more regulated they're likely to be. So when we focus or do a shift from behaviors to social emotional development, we can see great growth. Behaviors is about making the kid listen, do better, follow the rules. Where attunement is how can I connect with my child in a deeper way that really speaks to their hearts and changes them from the inside out. So here's the process or journey of attunement. One is prioritizing the child's neuroceptive need for safety. Creating that safety for ourselves as adults, being in the green zone. Recognizing the causes and triggers. What are the common things or areas that might cause the child to drift out of that green zone, which is very normal. It happens to us all the time. And also recognizing the common things for adults as well. So being more aware of those areas is really key so that we can help children learn new ways of coping. Really appreciate the circle of security here. You can see that copyright information as well. That if you haven't taken the course, please take it. It's an amazing course. Even psychologist friends I know who, studied a lot, done a lot of work, they take this course and say, wow, that was really good. I've learned so much about myself, and parenting, and everything else. It's just beautiful. So the circle of security is really about helping parents to know that they get practical. How can I be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kinder than my kids? Whenever possible, follow their needs, and whenever necessary, take charge. That's such a beautiful summary because children want to explore, but they need you to make sure you're there to create that safe haven and support for them so that from that secure base, they can go out and grow and be themselves. So that's really our hope. Children want us to watch over them, help them, enjoy things with them, and delight them, to be able to organize their feelings and support them, but they also want to go out and explore. So that resource is in depth and really highlights the power of relationship, the power of connection. So do look into that. And as we talk about connection, here's another thought or idea that way too: the power of play. Play is a powerful way to connect with your children, especially younger children. So you can see this family here having a wonderful time playing. We want to be able to do that with our kids. Sometimes we can be serious and busy and doing all the stuff. But I encourage you, pick a time right now in your mind and think, when is a time each day that I can connect with my child through play? If you need to, set a timer in your phone, create a rhythm and routine. As parents, we can all get busy sometimes. So it's really key, super important, to give us some time and space to play. So here's some steps. Number one, unplug. Get rid of your phones, devices, everything else, all the distractions, whatever it might be. For some people, it might be Timu, other people, it might be the newspaper. Whatever it is, get rid of the distractions, the magazines, whatever is going to distract the other people, and just zone in with your kid. Now, the goal of play, it's not outcome based. We're just here to have fun, relax, stay curious. You don't have to create the perfect art project or build the perfect fort. You want to be able to follow the lead of your child and just have fun connecting with your inner child too. Not only is it great for children, it's also very powerful and therapeutic and psychologically very healthy for adults to engage in play. And if you don't know how to play, I've got great news for you. Follow the lead of your child because they know how to play and engage. And it's going to help you grow so much too. I like to have a lot of fun. I'm an adventurous person, but I'm also a pretty strategic and organized and serious person. So life's absolute greatest gift for me is having children. Now, trust me, there's hard days too, so I'm not trying to sugarcoat that. It's the hardest thing in the world, but it's the best because it's taught me how to play. And just after I finish this presentation, my kids get home, I'm so excited just to hang out with them. It's been a long week, it's been a busy week, and I can just unwind, take my mind off things, and play. It's going to energize me, and it's going to be fun. And of course, then we have to do all the work as parents and family, but that playtime is important in prioritizing. So play requires social interaction, safety. That's why the green zone is so important. The child sets the agenda, the reciprocal back and forth of engaging in fun activities together. So that's how it also builds neural exercise, helping us to really grow our green pathway, building a bridge from bottom up and top down in terms of the way cognitively we understand and relate to each other, and helps with social emotional skill development. It's very key in all kinds of areas of social emotional development, such as decision making, social skills, emotional awareness, emotional regulation. Play is one of the most powerful ways that your child can grow and develop. So keep that in mind. And that's a real key to just do that every day and create those spaces and places to be able to grow in those areas. As we wrap things up, I just want to really land in that play piece. If you heard nothing else, take time, set a specific timer, pull up your phone now. Good. Pull up my phone here and set a specific time. For me, I like to do it right when the kids come home at 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5. Depends. Sometimes we have random schedules. The kids have activities. Parents work late, different things. I just create that rhythm routine right when they get home. So it's not even an alarm on my phone. Maybe it is in yours. But for me, it's just the habit stacking. I come home, the first thing I want to do is connect with the kids and play with them. So whatever your habit stack is or time is, put that in and try to practice it every day. As we wrap things up, I hope you all are having fun, having a good time, learning a few things. I want to wrap up with some really practical takeaways. Take a screenshot of this particular page or use it at home. It's from the Contented Child. It's a great resource here of the 8 steps that you can do to provide that co-regulation support for your children. So take a picture of that, have that as we dive into emotional awareness and emotional regulation. Emotional awareness is understanding how you feel, and emotional regulation is knowing what to do with those feelings. So we want to be able to understand how we're feeling. So depending on the age of your child, you might use different resources or emotions, wheels, etc., to model and show that to them. This is one that maybe for children who are a little bit older than most of yours, but a powerful tool to really label and coach emotions for children in grade school. For younger children, we often just talk about those three colors, as we said: blue, red, and green. And we play what I like to call the mad, sad, glad game. So every day, I like to talk about with my 3-year-old, 5-year-old, and 6-year-old a time they felt mad, a time they felt sad, and a time they felt glad. And just sitting in these emotions is so powerful because it helps them grow awareness to behave socially appropriate, make friends, manage stress. There's many benefits of being able to really navigate those emotions well. And we know that the most important inner tool in our toolbox is human connection. So remember that. Don't feel like you have to do 20 things to help your kids with your emotions. Just do one thing well, and that's connecting. And that's what we do around dinner time, to be able to say to our children, okay, mad, sad, glad game, we're going to talk about it for 2 minutes and really support that regulation in our children. So make it practical, do it every day, and value the superpower of human connection. Moving right along as we wrap up, things that you already know, what we see for a child who's regulated, calm, focused, they can communicate and problem solve. So if you're not seeing good communication skills and problem solving, it's probably a sign that they might be getting dysregulated. So I'm not sure what it looks like for your child, but here's some general ideas you might see for a child who's getting into a dysregulated state. Like we talked before, it could be hungry too, could be whining, could be tired, rubbing their eyes, different things like that. These are, of course, just general ideas. It's going to look unique to every situation, but here's some of the things it could look like for your child. So there you go. You might also see protesting, hopefully not, but sometimes it can lead to self-injurious behavior, aggressive behavior, etc. So just knowing dysregulation is part of life, it's how we grow, and as parents, our job is to be bigger, stronger, wiser, and especially kinder to support them. So here's a model that does kind of highlight or look at some predictable, let's especially focus on de-escalating behaviors. As we're getting more dysregulated, sure, slow touch, making sure it's invited or the child's asked. Music, I love music. Music helps me so much when I'm regulated. Even counting, like, okay, let's count to 10, or let's count how many seconds it takes to put on our pants, or whatever it might be. For eating rhythm and routine. I've got some OT friends who are real experts at this. They talk about rhythm and routine and counting, the power of that and regulation. So thank you to them for those ideas. And just talk more with your psychologist, your occupational therapist, or other experts, professionals in terms of how you can develop very specific and tailor-made, unique de-escalating strategies that match with your child. Because we know that every child is so different and each child needs very unique strategies. Okay? So just work on that. And then, of course, if a child gets into more of the flight situation, being able to just be present, you don't have to say anything. Less is more with words sometimes, right? Quiet, confident, just being there. That's what we want to do, right? Okay, so that brings us to our conclusion. Connecting brain to brain. We've been teaching and talking about this. I'm going to mix a metaphor here just for a minute because different systems use different colors. So this is a time and toolkit, and they like yellow. So it's yellow's a little different, but green and red are the same. So here's some more practical tips for you. When your child's in the green zone, you can see they're calm, and we always want to be using our interventions to move towards green. How can I be safe, powerful, and more connected with my child? Versus the red is when I'm using interventions that are creating stress and disconnection. I'm actually escalating the child or moving them further down that dysregulation space. So the yellow zone is that in-between zone between green and red. Our children are not quite, kind of in that brain stem of the red zone. They're in the limbic brain, and we want to pause the feeling and process it. So they're still at a place where they can regulate. Because sometimes children are not in a place where they're able to regulate. And you can see the instructions for that, meeting unmet needs, just getting low, getting their space, and just waiting sometimes. We've got to be patient as parents. I know I do. So it's something I'm working on, But being able to regulate, so helping your children regulate their body using words and actions, being able to set limits, pause, breathe, and model how to be upset. I love that idea. Name it to tame it, feel it to hear it. We know behavior is communication. So, guess what? If you can communicate, then you don't have to have the behavior. Of course, like I said, children with speech delays or other complexities, that's going to be a real challenge. But our 3-year-old, oh my goodness, he's like he's not even 3 yet. He's the most communicative kid we've ever had. And one of the most communicative kids I've ever seen. He was talking so much when he was 2. So we want to try to take advantage of that as parents and really have him put things into words instead of whining, crying, etc. Right? So recognizing even as we're superstar parents and working on things, there's of course it's very normal that we all get triggered too. So I'm gonna leave this with you as we land the plane here and finish off our session. That recognizing our own triggers is the key. What puts us in the red zone? What can we do for ourselves to feel more safe, powerful, and connected? For some people, it could be feeling less confident as a parent. If you're out in the store, your child's melting down. It could be noise. For me, it's like noise and whining and children not listening. Oh man, don't get me started. That really triggers me. Sometimes it could be taking their behavior personally, like, oh, they're not listening to me on purpose. Sometimes it's our own expectations. Sometimes I definitely have unrealistic expectations of my kids, and that just automatically sets me up for failure. Could be that you're tired or stressed. As a parent, you can relate. When are you not tired and stressed, especially the tired part, right? So just being able to recognize what our triggers are and being able to press pause. Everybody say pause. So pause what you're doing, drop to your child's level. Maybe take some deep breaths, maybe you do something else to calm or regulate yourself. And then finally being able to practice a different response. These are the keys I really want you to think about and work on and apply at home in the areas of regulation and attachment for your children. My thoughts are with you as you think about and process applying this knowledge at home. If you all have any questions, feel free, you can stick around and answer some of those. But I really want to encourage each one of you. Number one, it's all about relationship. Connection is our superpower. So be intentional. Sometimes less is more. We want quantity of time, lots of time, but quality time, quality over quantity. So be intentional. Find those 5 or 10 minutes every day when you're deeply connecting with your kids and having those powerful conversations. I just really encourage you with that. And then be practical. What is a time in the day, maybe it's dinner time, bedtime, whatever, when you can talk about mad, sad, and glad? 3 simple emotions to begin to develop the child's emotional toolkit, no matter what age they are. As you do those 2 areas well, I promise you, there's going to be incredible growth and results for your children. But remember, every child develops differently. So if their language skills are developed or they have other neurodiverse complexities, it's important to remember to be patient and recognize your journey as a parent and your child's journey in emotional regulation might look very different than their sibling, than another child you might know, a family or friend. Each child is special. They're unique, they're a gift, and our job as parents, don't you wish there was a manual for this, is to understand their uniqueness and parent them in such a way that empowers them to learn, grow, and become the people they were made to be. So I just want to encourage you as a parent, from a parent to a parent, you got this, you can do this, it's one step at a time. You'll make mistakes, we all do, but keep going and keep growing. one step at a time. It's amazing how time flies, and you wake up 10 years from now and say, where did that time go? So remember to make the most of every moment and thrive in your parenting journey today.